Okay, if we could get started. This is going to be a work session between the city of Marquette and a northern class dealing with the Marquette Waste Characterization Study. It's April 11th, 2016. I want to call this work session to order. Could you please rise and say the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Our roll call shows 2 commissioners are absent tonight, both of whom are ill, so they are excused. I have no, well, I'll make a couple quick announcements. I will delve into it more at our regular meeting. But we do have, if you remember, the Kraft Hockeyville USA competition going on. Lakeview Arena is in the top 10. So we have a chance to, if we get enough votes, to move up in the rankings. And if we do, we'd start off with $10,000. Higher we go, the more we get. So I would encourage those of you here and those of you at home to contact Lakeview Arena or contact city manager's office here at City Hall to find out where to go, how to vote online. So potentially the more votes we have for Lakeview Arena, the better it'll be. With that, we're going to move to our first public comment. Public comment is a time when citizens can address the city commission. You have 3 minutes. We would need your name, address, town or township, city or township. So we're going to open public comment. Is there anybody that wishes to address the commission at this time? Anybody wish to address the commission? Seeing none, we're going to close public comment. And we're going to move into our agenda, which is the Marquette Waste Characterization Study. I would like to start it off with Jen, who will lead us into this. Jen?
Good evening, and thank you for being here tonight for this presentation. A group of senior students from the Human Impact on the Environment class at Northern Michigan University completed a capstone project this fall, which entailed a great deal of research on residential waste habits here in Marquette City. Over a period of 4 weeks, surveys were mailed out in city utility bills developed by the students with approval from NMU and city administration. The results of the survey were included in their report and considered in their conclusions and subsequent recommendations for the city to consider in the future. The feedback received on the surveys indicated the residents would like the opportunity to hear the presentation and results of the survey. So here we are tonight with all 4 students providing their presentation to you all and any interested viewers. In the audience, we also have Matt McGurn and Mark Herrick from Waste Management, should the presentation leave you with questions the students may not be able to answer specific to their operation. We've also got Scott Cambenzi, Superintendent of Public Works, available to answer related questions. At this time, I'd like to turn it over to the presenters and have them introduce themselves and get started. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Jen. Hello, I'm Cody Delwick. My name is Will Mulligan.
Zach Gerns, Colton Moore.
All right, so, cool, there it is. All right, first of all, thank you everyone for being here. We feel very privileged to get to present this information that we collected from the community to you guys as the city. And how this all started, like Jen mentioned, we were 4 senior students in a class called Human Impact on the Environment. It is the capstone class for our major. And before we even enrolled in that class, there had been a discussion with our professor, Susie Ziegler, and a couple different interactions discussing this matter that we will be presenting to you guys. And basically they were desiring a characterization study of the waste methods and collection systems of the city here. And what we wanted to do was kind of do a research project that would help create a healthy environment, a more progressive and sustainable city for Marquette, Michigan. And we did this through a variety of our surveys, data collection, education, and a couple meetings with some people who are in attendance today. And we really hope that the information we're presenting will create positive change for the area. All right, so just a quick summary of how the current program works. Basically, what happens from the curb to the landfill is we have what's called that green bag program. And what that does is the residents put all their waste in a bag, put it on the curb. They buy the bags from places like Econo, Walmart, different stores around town. And then the recycling is a dual stream system, meaning 1 week they collect fibers and 1 week they collect rigids. They do not mix the two due to sorting issues. And those are compacted, baled, the recyclable materials are compacted, baled, and then shipped to a couple different places, one being Eagle River, where they are then redistributed at a price that is kind of dependent on the market. So sometimes they just go into storage and they just sit until the market goes up and they can actually make money on this. And this is the Marquette County landfill.
So one of the benefits of working in a group like this is that we could kind of distribute the work and based on the task that we were passionate about. So Cody and myself here kind of took the rolling bin program into effect. So we saw that there was an issue with the green bags. They're not very sustainable. They're kind of expensive. We noticed that there wasn't a defined collection system for recycling. Citizens are allowed to have open bin containers, and that leads to loose trash on the streets. So we kind of saw the rolling bins as a solution to that. One rolling bin with a lid for trash, one rolling bin with a lid for recycling. Will here saw a styrofoam ban that could be effective. So cities like Chicago and Portland have banned styrofoam food to go containers, mainly because they cannot be recycled very efficiently. Zach here did the survey, so he was in charge of creating that, distributing that, and that kind of ended up being our main hard data collection system.
All right, so going back to styrofoam, what I wanted to focus on, less in the distribution side of it and more on the local restaurants in the area and what they were using for styrofoam for to-go containers. Because right now, due to lack of infrastructure, there is no sort of styrofoam recycling. All of it goes into the landfill where it's compacted and buried. So what I was trying to do was I went to a multitude of restaurants. I went to 20 of them, received feedback from roughly half of them. And what I presented was a brief cost analysis, just kind of comparing the individual prices for these different types of containers. Now, a styrofoam cup that costs 4 cents versus a paper cup, which is 30 cents, if you're using thousands a week, that could put our local businesses in economic jeopardy, which is the reason why I sent out this survey, because to be discussed later in the results, there was a question on the survey regarding a styrofoam ban. And for the record, we would be the first city in Michigan to implement this. And there are many large and small size cities, towns, New York, Chicago, a similar comparative sized town in Oregon called Ashland. It's a town about 20,000 people with a university, which has about 9 or 8,000 students. We're at NMU, we're just above 9,000. And then I also presented controversial issues, which if you guys would like to, you can go over at a later time. It's just kind of facts of why styrofoam and polypropylene are hazardous to our environment.
So next aspect is the rolling bins. We were noticing that loose litter was blowing about on the streets on collection day, particularly on a fiber night, because the cardboard and other paper material is lighter and easily blown around by the wind. We were hoping that the rolling bins will increase recycling rates as well as reduce the waste that ends up in the landfill. Some evidence of this problem here. Colton and I went out on several different days and walked around, and these are recycling totes that are being blown about the road on this day. This was taken in November. And you'll notice that there's quite a bit of fibrous material blown about. Nobody really seemed too concerned with it. People were just kind of going about their days. And we didn't really have to look hard for this. We just went out one day and walked around for a little bit, and this was a similar scene all around the city. From the surveys, we noticed that a lot of people were concerned about the trucks not being ready for rolling bins or being able to collect the trash and recycling with the rolling bins. But through our meeting with Julie, we learned that Waste Management would have no problem exchanging these trucks for other trucks that would be equipped to take the rolling bins with an arm for just grabbing the bin and dumping it right into the truck.
So Waste Management was a key player for us with this research. Basically, they're the middleman between the residents throwing away their trash and recycling to the landfill. So they really were a big part.
Excuse me, could you speak, when you speak into the microphone, because people at home cannot hear you.
Yes. So we met with Waste Management on various occasions, and one thing we talked to them about was to implement these rolling bins to our city, and they kind of asked us to design stickers for the bins, noting what can and cannot go into the bins, and they were very supportive of the bin system. They use it in various other cities, so that was really great for us to have them.
All right, now on to the survey. So like Jen said, we were approached about doing a survey and a waste characteristic study of Marquette. And the survey, we compiled it. It's 18 questions. I think maybe you guys have a copy there. And we had to get approval from Northern, and then we had to get approval from the city, and then we had to get approval again from Northern. So it was quite the process to get this survey out. And we ended up, everything got approved, and 6,300 copies went out with the help of the NMU printing department and the utility billing department here. They put the bills in, not that they put the surveys in with the bills that went out every week. Then citizens could either return the bills here to the city return the surveys here to the city with the bills, or they could go online and take the survey online using Qualtrics, which is NMU's survey producer or maker. And so when we first started getting surveys back, we kind of were getting them back, and it was really a trickle effect. They came in very slowly, but then we got a couple of newspaper articles and a TV appearance, and a lot of social media is a huge player in this too. And once that came in effect, we got surveys back 3 times faster than what we were at the beginning of October or mid-October. So as of right now, we have 1,207, and there's a little typo that says with more to be entered. There's no more to be entered. So that's the final number. And we kind of learned from different resources that 10% response rate is a very good rate and a very good demographic of the community. And we ended up getting 19% of our surveys back, so we feel like that's a very good representation of what the people of Marquette are thinking. So like I said, we met with the Sustainable Community Ad Hoc Committee, and they were a huge help with us. Scott was there, Jen was there, and they recommended us, they kind of gave us recommendations on how to word some of our questions, and they added a question about, they wanted us to add a question about the organic curbside pickup, which ended up being a huge comments question. A lot of people had to comment about that. They looked over survey, and really it was kind of where we kind of went from being just a class project and just a grade to being an actual project that might be able to influence and help out our community around us. So that was a huge turning point for us.
All right. So now getting into the demographics of the people who filled out this survey. So these, as you can tell by these 4 graphs, these are predominantly, as you can see in the first graph, 95% of the people who filled out this survey are your full-time residents. The majority of them, over 1,000, over almost 1,100, not being an NMU student. So we mentioned social media helped us out a lot. So this wasn't just our friends on Facebook taking our survey or anything. These are the members of your community, full-time residents, and if you look on the bottom left, type of residency, the majority live in a single-family home, and then on the bottom right, there's 97% claiming that they do recycle. Now, that graph could be interpreted in a couple different ways, because you got to think of the type of people who would take the time to fill out the survey. I'm surprised 42 people who don't care about recycling filled it out. So it's nice to see mixed results in the survey, but that is something to consider as we go through this. All right.
The following 4 graphs are kind of what we feel are the meat and potatoes of the data that we collected from the survey. So this first graph here, you can see on the left side is a graph of the percentage of citizens who feel that they have noticed loose trash on the night of their collection. So 3/4 of our citizens see their streets with littered waste. On the right-hand side, you see citizens that would prefer a rolling bin type of system in our city. So we feel that this is a direct correlation between people who notice that there is a problem and that they might see a solution to it.
So when it came to the curbside compost pickup, 59% of the people would support a curbside compost pickup. 41% of the people said no. So it's more a 50-50 split. But as I mentioned earlier, that was a huge, a lot of people like to comment about that, either for or against. So we thought it'd be good to include it in this presentation just because it is such a talkative issue.
Moving over to the styrofoam ban, this just shows that the majority of people, 68%, would support a styrofoam ban. And as I had mentioned earlier, I went to 20 different restaurants and kind of asked them about their styrofoam usage. And about half of them said that they would like to consider alternative products, but due to economic reasons, they chose not to. And that's part of the reason why I wanted to go talk to these people, is because a ban in the city, it would make a lot of progressive and positive changes, but it could put these local businesses in some sort of economic jeopardy, which is the last thing we want to do because they're sort of the foundation of our city. But at the same time, if they were to use alternative products, restaurants are places that people from outside of town go to visit. Everyone who comes here goes to a couple different restaurants, and if they see, like if you go to, let's say, Donkers or a restaurant that composts, uses different types of compostable products in their to-go containers, that creates an image for the city. So that might be something that these restaurant owners could look at. But the majority of our citizens who filled this out, they did show support for the ban.
Our next graph here is loose waste on the streets before and after bins. Colton and I went out on a couple different nights on alternating weeks of rigids and fiber collection, and just went out with a garbage bag and just kind of noticed what we could see on the streets. And we tried to look at an area kind of comparable in size to what the rolling bin area would be for the trial, for the run of the trial with the bins. And we noticed almost 90 pieces of fibrous material and close to 30 pieces of rigid material on the street that night. And obviously we didn't get a chance to actually put the bins on the street, but from what we learned from various sources and talking to different people, we believe that there would be much less litter on the streets on those nights because there would be no more material being blown around in the wind.
So moving into the results, so basically what we can kind of sum up from everything we gathered from the survey is that the community wants to see change, and there's a couple different things that they want to see, but there are obviously further steps to see this into fruition. We had a kick learning about local government and all these different steps that we had to take all from start to finish. We also found out that the majority of citizens are unaware of where this recyclable material ends up, what is recyclable, and they are definitely in support of rolling bins, a styrofoam ban, as well as the organic collection. Okay.
All right. So just about every survey that came back had at least a little bit of a comment on it. Either if it was thanking us for doing the survey or not thanking us for doing the survey and telling them to leave them alone. But there was a lot of really positive comments about this. A lot of people thanking us. A lot of people thinking it'd be very beneficial with the rolling bins. A lot of people thinking it'd be very beneficial with maybe a compost or getting rid of the green bags. A lot of comments about the green bags. Like I said earlier, a lot of comments about the compost, either for and against. One person said they would move out because they're afraid their dog would get eaten by coyotes because of all the compost that they would have to keep on their property. So that's just a couple of comments that we got back. But most of all, the majority were very positive and very supportive of what we're trying to do here.
So the following information is some of our recommendations that we have for the community based on the data that we collected from the survey. So the first thing would be a continued analysis of our survey. We feel that there is still more information to gather from it. And with our recent approval with the IRB board through NMU, that information can be accessed by anyone who is interested in it. We would also like to see continued efforts to move through with a bin system. As stated previously, we feel that the bin system would just make our streets a lot cleaner and really make it a lot more efficient, and therefore would increase recycling rates and would increase the life of our landfill. We personally would like to see a 96-gallon for recycling and a 64-gallon bin for waste, so a larger bin for recycling. Similar cities in various areas have done this, and they have associated a fee with overfilling the waste bin. And again, that would promote more recycling and increase recycling rates.
We'd like to be the first city in Michigan to ban styrofoam. This would improve the landfill longevity, as styrofoam is one of the longest inorganic decomposing matters found in a landfill. And we'd also like to potentially see the implementation of organic curbside pickup, although Waste Management at this time said that they do not have a truck for this, so there'd be a lot more work that would need to go into something like that. All right. So due to the Flint water crisis, Michigan is currently under a national spotlight. So now would be a good time to kind of start to focus on some local issues here, some self-improvements that could be made in the city. And all these changes that we listed, we believe would lead Marquette towards becoming a true leader in sustainability and progressiveness. And will show Michigan what a responsible city, which are full of passionate citizens, can accomplish.
Yeah, we just like to thank Susie Ziegler, June Nemchek I don't think she's no longer there at Waste Management, but thank you for helping us. Brad Austin at the landfill, Jen LePage, Derek Anderson with our IRB approval, Christy Black, Jan Nichols, and the City of Marquette, the commission, and all the participants that took our survey, because without them, none of this would have been possible. And as Dr. Sundell, who was recently retired from Northern, would say, keep fighting the good fight. So, any questions?
Gentlemen, thank you very much. It's a well-organized presentation. Very well done and very informative. If there are no objections, I would like to take questions from the City Commission first, and perhaps if there's somebody in the audience that would like to ask a question, we'll give you time afterwards. So commissioners, anybody have any questions? Commissioner Plord.
Thank you, Your Honor. Fellas, do you have any information on how long it takes styrofoam to decompose?
I do, and I can run back to that slide real quick. Give me a sec. All right, so right here, polystyrene is the more formal label for styrofoam, and it takes 500 years to decompose in a landfill.
Commissioner Cambenzi.
Well, I'd just like to thank you. This is certainly something that is important to the community, and I think that speaks well by your survey, but also to the commission. And it's something that we've been working on. I'm in my 4th year now, and it's something that every year with the Sustainable Ad Hoc Committee, we've tried to find a better way to recycle more, possibly get a return on our recycling, but just find some uses for it. And one of the biggest challenges is how do we educate the community? So by you coming forward and doing this, as students at Northern, this is a huge, tremendous help for us, because what you're doing is you're putting it out there for us. Most of us have to be concerned about the budget and I guess I don't want to say bigger things, but this is something that truly will help us move forward in trying to find a program that fits. Your response rate was amazing. I mean, twice as much as the minimum to get a good read. Very helpful, very detailed. I think you guys did a great job with that. In terms of, maybe to push you further, or maybe some of our staff, I don't know what it costs to open up another landfill cell. I know it's very expensive. I know the regulations are tedious. But we did hear from staff that the cost of bins, supplying those to the city residents, would be about $400,000. What's the cost of a new landfill cell?
If I remember what Brad Austin said, was every new acre of landfill was approximately $500,000.
Okay,
So if and when they did open new landfill, they wouldn't want to do just 1 acre. They'd want to do several acres. So it would most likely cost several $1,000,000.
right. And so what all of us find that are elected in these positions is that sometimes what makes people really move is seeing that bottom line and seeing that cost. And so the only thing that I think we could move forward and take from your thing is, now let's put some numbers in there, because when people see that, maybe they'll think twice about throwing out that wine bottle or whatever it is that they're throwing in there. I was interested on the curbside compost. A lot of it was a nuisance. It seemed like, whether it was smell or whatever else. Are we still going to go forward with having a collection bin somewhere on the city property? Yes, we are. Okay. And that might be the happy medium for now with the compost. The only other thing I have, again, this is a wonderful job. Thank you for stepping up and doing this and really making a difference with your project. With an issue that we're trying to work through. I appreciate it, and I hope that in the future more classes will come forward. I hope we can get their PowerPoint, if they're in agreement with it, on our TV station that airs maybe we can get ourselves off of the replay and add this to it, because I think this is important information for a lot of the residents to see. But thank you very much for what you did. It was outstanding.
Thank you.
If I may add, you were discussing earlier about the education of recyclable materials to the residents. What I've seen in various other cities, just in midst of traveling, they, on those rolling bins that we had talked about, they have, it's not engraved, but it's a very defined sticker, and it'll have a list of materials that go into the landfill, and it is titled landfill. It's not titled waste, so that the user knows where that's going. So it says landfill, and it'll have a list of materials, and then it'll have different types of recyclable materials listed in a different column. So that could be something that could greatly help educate the residents if it's a physical bin that they're going to be using every single week that has a list of everything that can go in that bin, versus a mailing that they might accidentally lose, throw away, or never open. So that is something to consider for the future.
Commissioner Conley.
Thank you for your work. And your success made it be even more work. I'm sure it's harder to compile large numbers, and when you have a success and a response rate like that, that's incredible. It just shows that this community is interested in sustainability and that they agree it's an important issue. I don't think we've known over the years how important it was. 20, 30 years ago, who recycled? Who even knew about it? But I think by even doing this study, you've advanced that awareness by sending that out and putting it in the water bills and getting somebody to just stop and think about it. That's really the key. That's half the battle is education, and I think the survey even advanced that. So I thank you for that. It's costly to recycle, but it's more costly not to. And we have to look at sustainability and staying on this plan as long as we can. And as you get older, you might think, well, I don't have to worry about that. I'm not going to be around that long. But my kids will. My grandkids will. And I think it becomes even more important. So we all have a stake in it. So thanks for what you do. Small question, just a little thing. When you discuss a styrofoam, trying to remove that from, do you want to just do that in the city, or are you going to try to enroll the surrounding townships, so that somebody doesn't say, well, I'm going to go over in the township and I'm just going to move 500 feet west and open up there and use styrofoam.
That's kind of a loaded question. I'm not exactly sure how the ban would work within the city. It would be tough to involve all local townships, and if you were to do it countywide, citywide, it would probably, the easiest thing to do is to start small within the city. And one of the toughest challenges would be working with distribution companies. Think about like a furniture packing company or something like that. A company that would fill this room of styrofoam in a single day, perhaps, versus a restaurant that might hand out 1,000 little containers a day. There's a huge difference. And the economic factors involved are kind of a double-edged sword, because you have to think about what image you're creating, then you also have to think about the wallets of the owners of those little businesses and little restaurants and what they're contributing. So I don't really have a definite answer for that question.
It's a huge problem. I have
Yeah.
a son who's a packaging engineer and knows how long styrofoam lasts, but also knows that if he wants to ship something, and it needs to get there intact, that's
Right.
one thing
Right. Yeah.
that you can use to keep from paying the insurance bill on it. So it's going to take some more thought, but we're another step along that way. As we increase awareness and get everybody thinking about recycling, I think there's people that don't think about it. If we can get them involved, we've moved it forward a little bit. So thanks for your work. I know it was a lot of work, and you get this kind of response. It's like, wow. Okay.
Thank you. And like you said, education's half the battle. So thank you for the comments.
Thank you.
Commissioner Baldini.
Thank you, and thank you for your effort and your research and gathering data. It's not always easy, but people participated, so I think that was encouraging. Loose trash, I see it all the time. Matter of fact, I pretty much have not decided, but I just go out the morning after garbage and pick up trash, and I have a bag in my basement that I stuff trash from the street in. So it happens. Sometimes nature is not very cooperative, but also I think people just put it out. Well, I think Commissioner Conley's comment about people don't understand it or just take it for granted. I mean, tomorrow night is garbage night on my side of the street or town, and you just go out and put it out. You check it whether it's fiber or not, and we don't really think about sort of where it's going. I mean, the fact that I put fiber out and I put the other stuff out the other following week. Sensitive to that, but overall it's not. I do think it's important to gather data. You did. I noticed, for example, that 25% of the people have noticed loose trash, but 35% prefer rolling bins, which means, I wonder if they're the same people or if that other extra 10% is, or that 35% is more than just the 25. Obviously, it's more than the 25, but are they different people? But it says that people are sensitive to that. I think also the comment Commissioner Connolly made about education is important, and maybe our solid waste division should put together a program and do the proverbial Rotary Kiwanis luncheons, because it is a way to disseminate information. People don't understand the economics of it all. They see their bill, and we pay it, and we're appreciative of it, our garbage being picked up. But there's that other long-term implication. I mean, I'm not going to be here when that styrofoam finally decomposes 500 years from now, unless there's some other tremendous advances someplace. But so it's not my problem, that sort of routine. But it is a cost, it is an expense, and maybe we have to think about an education program also. But just for the city of Marquette to do it, it's a start. Marquette does do that sometimes, but it is our landfill, and so there is an education. But I think you always have to start with good data, good information, and you have that. And I think when people look at some of that and understand some of the economics of it, not just the environmental aspects and rationale, but also the economics, it becomes a sellable thing. So I think it's something we got to pick up and maybe think about going another step. Matter of fact, maybe some class at the university could actually get into doing this and starting to make presentations to the different groups. They're always looking for speakers. and good visual program talking about the economics of it would be, I think, very beneficial. Would help to build it. You got to build. You just can't come in and say we're doing it. People are going to get pretty excited about new costs, the restaurants, the styrofoam, so on and so forth. But you build a basis for it. But thank you for your effort, and thanks for your input.
Commissioner Conley.
Just a quick question. You said that this was one of the courses that you take in your major. What is the major?
Our major is Environmental Studies and Sustainability, and it is in the EEGS department at Northern.
Thank you.
Different.
It's our capstone class for more than just one major. So I'm actually an earth science major, and there's an environmental science major that takes the course as well. So it's a few different bachelor's programs, and this class encompasses everything that all of our environmental classes have done throughout the 4 years here.
And where do you go from here? I mean, next year, where are you going to be? Is he going to graduate course, or you
Personally?
Go into private in a job doing this, or?
From here, you could go to graduate school or start right into a career doing research professionally, working for the government. There's a lot of different pathways.
Thanks.
Commissioner Plord.
I also want to say thank you. This was a great presentation, and it's obvious that you're involved in what you're learning, and you're learning in what you're involved in. You guys handle the questions very, very well, very, very smooth, very professionally, and this is information that the city can use for a long time. It was a great contribution to our city. So again, I also thank you.
Gentlemen, again, we thank you. You definitely raised some awareness tonight of problems that we have and what we need to do. I know that we have representatives from Waste Management here, and hopefully they're going to learn from this and gain from this. Hopefully, if nothing else, educate the public, make improvements. One of my pet peeves is plastic bags, plastic bottles. If I could, rule the earth, I would make those illegal, get rid of them. They're all over. Question for you. Well, one of the other problems you talk about styrofoam, the containers, but more and more people are doing mail order, Amazon, whatnot. Everything that comes from there has styrofoam. So, you got to cut that out too. What do you do? I'd really love to see a way to recycle styrofoam. Correct me, but is there not some places, be it a larger metropolitan area, that does recycle styrofoam?
Yeah, there is. But being in the UP and being Marquette, or the city of 22,000 people, we lack the infrastructure, because there's a multitude of different types of styrofoam out there, just like there's different types of plastic, and you recycle different types of styrofoam different ways. So there's even there's even sorting that would have to be involved with these different types of styrofoam so that they can be recycled in a specific way, because like I said, there's different kinds. But in larger metropolitan areas, there are ways to recycle it. But if you look at cities like Chicago, New York, Portland, there are these large metropolitan areas. The volume of styrofoam they can collect too. Well, they do get large volumes, but they sent out a ban on styrofoam. So they found an economic reason to do that. If that helps answer your question.
Thank you. Yes, it does. Mr. Herrick. Does Waste Management have any plans for styrofoam, or is it still can't touch it yet? You want to step to the podium?
Yeah. All right, well, thanks for letting me come speak. I have a couple things to say too. But as far as styrofoam, we would love to see it not in the system. I don't think we have a plan for it. I know everything that goes to our building in Milwaukee, we find a way to recycle. So it can be anything we recycle, any kind of plastic, anything that goes there is recyclable. Other people aren't able to do it because, like you said, it's not part of a major metropolitan area, but we find a way to take out everything that comes to our site and recycle it. I'll do some more research though and get back with you guys.
Good. Thank you.
Can I follow up with one couple things? Hey, real quick, you guys can answer me questions and I can come back up. But the trucks that you saw there, they have tippers on them. So the trucks are right now in the city able to do carts. We would like to see if it ever goes to that, we have fancy machines that actually pick it up with an arm and does it. But right now, the trucks that we have do pick up carts, and they have 2 tippers on the back. Also, organics, it just depends on what they are, but those trucks can handle organics also. We wouldn't be able to do grease and stuff like that, but it's very debatable what we can call organic and what we can put in it, so it's possible there too. We would use it for grass clippings and stuff like that in certain cities. And then also, Sarah, just we put in carts in St. Ignace, Kinross, and we're looking for the Sioux, but they're about $10 a piece. And if you only had 2 per household, that would be about $120,000. Okay, so just so you know, I didn't want to. I mean, it's still a lot of money. It would be something that we can work through, but it isn't that big. I didn't want to just have scare everybody with the 400,000. So, okay, all right. Anyone got any questions? Just holler me back up.
Thank you. Commissioner Cambenzi.
Just one question for Mark, quick. With the bins, would you have, I guess, 2 different ones, maybe one for the rigids, one for the cardboard?
Say again, Sarah, I was talking.
Would you have, yeah, would you have 2 bins then, you know, one that you would, I guess, save for the rigids 1 week and then one for the fibers, or?
Yeah, I mean, you can do a lot of things. I mean, at times before the last contract, Scott and I actually thought about 4 splits, but how many carts are we going to have in our neighborhood? So
Yeah.
you could start with 2, and or you could have 2 for each recycle and 1 for just garbage.
Okay.
So it can be any realm, and then you got 64-gallon and 96-gallon totes.
Okay. Well, I know our city staff does an amazing job at capturing grants, so hopefully, maybe we'll find one that we can hopefully start to implement this. The last thing I want to say, I'd like to thank Professor Ziegler for her work. Not that long ago, we had a couple of 5th graders come up and who just spoke during public comment and wanted to present to us their thoughts on styrofoam in their lunchrooms. And so I know that students who, you know, get their hot lunch, eat in 5 minutes and throw most of it away to get out on the playground are also looking to see what else can they do. So if this project continues with the next group of students in this class, I think you could even extend this further into our public schools, and I think we'd certainly welcome that feedback as well. So you've started a great thing. Thank you.
Anyone else? Yeah, again, if there's no objections, anybody from the audience care to have a question for these young men? Anybody? Okay. Seeing none, we're going to move on to we're going to close the presentation. We thank you. Again, very good, excellent presentation.
Thank you guys.
Yep. We're going to move to our second public comment. Again, it's time where you can address the commission. You have 3 minutes. We need name, address, city or township. Does anybody wish to address the commission at this point? Anybody? Seeing none, we'll close public comment. And with that, we're adjourned.